Minecraft has got a lot of different game mechanics, from redstone to fishing to transportation, but one stands out to me more than the rest, and despite it standing out, I feel like it's one of the mechanics with the worst execution. This said mechanic or system is enchanting. Enchanting is a huge aspect of survival Minecraft, yet it feels very fundamentally flawed. It's a system that I personally believe to have insane potential that's just not fully tapped into yet. So you may ask, how can Minecraft's worst feature explore its full potential? Well, first, it's important to state that the enchantment system isn't all bad, as it does provide some cool effects that diversify your tools, and it switches up gameplay. They also provide the player with playstyle choices, as you're forced to pick between exclusive enchantments. For example, do you want Riptide or Loyalty and Channeling on your trident? The two enchantments are both equally interesting, so it's up to the player to choose which playstyle they prefer. And the third benefit is that enchanting does expand Minecraft's fairly small progression system, which is always a bonus. But with the positives out of the way, let's take a look at enchanting's prominent issues. There's two major problems with enchanting as is, these being the actual process of enchanting and the overall balancing of the enchantments themselves. If we first take a look at the process of enchanting, there's two ways you can go about it. You can either enchant books continuously until you finally get the enchantment you want, or you can set up a villager trading hall and continuously roll the villagers' trades until they sell your desired enchantment book. The problem with both of these systems is that they're grindy, they're random, so they don't reflect the player's effort, and they're just overall tedious tasks that, while adding to Minecraft's progression, it doesn't provide the player with a very fun experience. The second major issue is the balancing of the enchantments themselves, and by balancing, I'm not talking about some enchantments not being compatible with each other. I actually think that's a really good part of the enchantment system. The problem with balancing is that some enchantments are just so much clearly better than others that players rarely ever choose to use certain ones. It's not the fact that some enchantments are bad, it's just the fact that some are far more practical. I think a prime example of this is the incompatible sword enchantments. Sharpness increases your damage to all mobs, while enchantments like Bane of Arthropods only increases your damage to spiders. Now, to be fair, Bane of Arthropods allows you to deal more damage to spiders than Sharpness would, but the issue is it's just so situational, while Sharpness is going to be way more practical for most situations. The same could be said for Smite, which, while not as big of an issue since Smite targets undead mobs, which make up a large portion of the mobs in the game, Sharpness still tends to be more practical. There are countless examples of balancing issues with enchanting, but I think these two give you a good idea of the main issue. Some just can't justify being used over others, which in turn removes a lot of that choice factor I mentioned earlier, diminishing the actual good part about the enchantment system. Now guys, before I get into some potential solutions, I would like to ask that if you've enjoyed this video whatsoever so far, a like is greatly appreciated and goes a long way towards helping the channel out, as well as subscribing, as it ensures you never miss out on another video just like this one. My goal is to reach 50,000 subscribers by the end of 2026, so I really appreciate it if you help me get closer to that goal. Thank you. Now, getting into some solutions for this system, I will say it's a bit difficult, as I'm not a game developer, so I may not remember every little factor that goes into balancing a system like this, but I still think I was able to come up with some pretty good ideas that at the very least would help. So first, I want to make the actual process of enchanting less tedious and more fun, and to do this, we have to remove the major RNG that currently takes place. To do this, I want to add a new slot to the enchantment table for a new item called runes. Runes are often magical symbols that in many other games are actually what you use to enchant things with. However, since we already have enchantment books in Minecraft, runes are going to be a new item that allows you to pick among all the highest level enchantments for a specific item. For example, a trident rune would present you with all the different trident enchantments, and you would get to pick the specific one you wanted. It presents you with all the enchantments that are possible for the trident and that are also exclusive to the trident. This makes it so you don't have to roll through the enchantments over and over again. Runes will come in a variety of different types that each focus on a certain type of gear or tool. Now, there will also be runes that are more versatile and give you access to enchantments like Mending and Unbreaking that can be applied to more than one specific item. As to how you get these runes, I have them working similarly to armor trims being found in structures across the world, and once you obtain one, you can use the rune along with other items like diamonds to craft more. Runes function as a way to get to pick the exact enchantment you want without having to deal with the randomness of the current system. It also prompts you to go out and explore your world to actually find them, as well as adding a bit more value to structures, as a lot of the loot that used to make structures exciting, like name tags and saddles, no longer provide that same incentive, as you can just craft them whenever and wherever. Runes also wouldn't overcomplicate the system, as if you choose not to use them, nothing about the current system would change, but at least now you have a way to avoid the randomness and tediousness if you're up for searching for these runes. Another quick solution I'm going to throw in there is the complete removal of the enchantment limit. I don't know about most of you, but I don't think the the max enchantment limit does anything good for this system. If anything, it's just annoying. Some people say it might allow for people to make their stuff too overpowered if you remove it, but I'll say that the enchantments that aren't the most practical just don't get used because of this limit, as players don't want to waste their precious gear's enchantments on stuff that's not as useful. A prime example is an enchantment like Frostwalker. I'd love to have this on my gear, but I've already exceeded the enchantment limit by quite a bit. Sure, I can make another set of boots with Frostwalker, but I'd still have to give up one of the better practical enchantments, making that pair of boots blatantly worse, prompting me to use my original pair instead. And this takes me to my solution for balancing, which in full honesty is pretty hard to fix. The reason balancing is so hard to fix is because it requires Mojang to nerf current enchantments, which would lead to a large portion of players getting angry. Enchantments like fire protection and blast protection are going to be used way less than normal protection unless it gets nerfed. But like I said, I don't see normal protection getting nerfed, and buffing the other versions won't work, because no matter how good those enchantments are at protecting you from those specific scenarios, the practical option will still be what 99% of players lean towards. So in all honesty, my solution for balancing is just preventing more enchantments like this from being added into the game in the future, and keeping new enchantments on a similar path to enchantments like Windburst for the mace and Lunge for the spear, enchantments that provide unique abilities. And speaking of new enchantments, that brings me to how I'd continue to improve enchanting moving forward. And like I just mentioned, it would be by adding new enchantments that give unique abilities exclusive to certain pieces of armor or tools. While I don't have a ton of enchantment ideas for one piece of gear, I do have a lot of ideas in general. So let me go through them real quick. For axes, an enchantment that allows you to fully cut down trees if you chop the bottom down would be absolutely great. I can see why it's not currently in the game, because it's arguably a little overpowered, and Mojang does have a rule about not adding any items that break or place more than one block at a time. But at the same time, I don't think this is really that crazy, as it's not letting you obliterate any boss mobs, it's just letting you gather resources for your builds faster. An enchantment for helmets could be one that outlines any visible ores, helping you spot them easier. For boots, an enchantment that gives you the effect of a slime and allows you to bounce when falling from a certain height, or even charge up a bounce, allowing you to jump higher, would be really cool. Although for it to be balanced, it wouldn't prevent fall damage. For the bow, an enchantment that gives every arrow a 50% chance to shoot with a random effect such as poison or slowness. And a really great mod that shows the potential of what enchantments could be is a mod called enchantments. One of the enchantments this mod adds is beheading, which allows you to kill any mob with an axe and get their head. Another is sticky, which gives boots the effects of honey, allowing you to slide down and jump off walls, as well as leaving a small trail behind you that slows down mobs that step in it. See, these are the type of wacky enchantments that we need. Enchantments that do more than just buff the stats of your gear. I feel like that's currently what makes the enchantment system so appealing. It allows you to experience and use your tools in ways that you couldn't without the enchantments. I'll also mention that these enchantments that give unique abilities should never be incompatible with normal enchantments like protection or sharpness, so the player isn't forced to choose between practicality and fun. The only choice players should have to make should be between the different fun abilities, depending on what better suits their playstyle. I just hope that moving forward, Mojang chooses to focus on implementing more fun enchantments like these. And taking a quick step away from the enchantments themselves, I also quickly want to bring up XP, as getting XP to actually enchant items is another process that currently is kind of frustrating, as for some reason, the more levels you have, the harder it becomes to get more levels. And that's why I really like the idea that I've seen many online talk about, which is storable XP. Storable XP would come in the form of a new bottle type that's crafted with echo shards, allowing you to gather levels in a bottle by simply holding out your hand and collecting the XP, maybe maxing out around 30 levels. Once you're ready to use the XP, you can simply drink it and your levels will return to you no matter what your current level is. I feel like this just makes the process of getting XP a little less annoying, and it also gives another use to echo shards, which for an item as rare as they are pretty useless in their current state. Those are my ideas for some solutions to fixing, or at the very least improving, Minecraft's enchantment system. I know I didn't mention the debatable topic of mending, but I'll quickly just say that I personally think mending is good for the game and really doesn't need any changes. But I'm curious as to what you guys think of some of these ideas in the enchantment system as a whole. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Leave any you have down in the comments below. Now, if you guys did enjoy this video, a like is greatly appreciated, as well as subscribing so you never miss out on another video just like this one. I know it's still early in the year, but I'm really trying to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of 2026, so your guys' support helps a lot. I also now have a Discord, so I'll leave a link in the pinned comment in the description below, so if you want to get the chance to chat with me a bit more, join. Anyways, that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.